Thank you very much for this very nice rendition of the Fantasia Chromatica on organ. These fantasias are, of course, very long. Well, this is still a rather modest example. There are other fantasias which are still much longer than this one. And then we come to the question of registration. Well, this is actually principally a harpsichord piece, and on organ, I like the 8-foot principle throughout, because in this registration you don't hear so much that it is not a mean tone. For some mysterious reason, as soon as you add more stops, you hear more and more that it is in another temperament. And of course it is mean tone music. So that's very clever of you to play it in this registration. However, usually I would prefer to, if I play it on the organ, to have some variation, because an organ is not a harpsichord and it needs a bit of color here and there, even small ones like the addition of a 4-foot octave, etc. So if you look at the form of the piece, this perfect form, there are 3 major places where there are junctions, and where are they? What do you think? Did you analyze the piece?
Not in detail, no. That does seem like a big structural.
Yes.
It's more to do with texture, I suppose.
Yes. Well, actually, it is a little bit not such a nice question, because Sweelinck plays here with form, and if you look at the thematic development, you see an opening theme in half notes, and at one point he puts the theme in whole notes. So you would think, well, this is the next section, you have whole notes, and this goes on for a while, and then you get the theme in quarter notes, so faster instead of slower. So that are the 3 sections. However, there is a clear demarcation here in bar 70, which is the end of the exordium, so the exposition of the whole thing. And he goes on for a while with the theme in normal proportion, that is in half notes, but he soon gives it up, and already in bar 71 you see a very typical new counter theme in 8 notes, and that is a kind of contrast to the beginning. So that's a very clear demarcation. So that's bar 70 or 71, and the next one is clearly where the theme goes into diminution in shorter note values in bar 149. And if you look at the proportions of these pieces, it is clear that you have a long exordium, almost as long, or a little bit longer even, middle movement, and then a final movement, a final section which is twice as short as the other section. So it's really a kind of speeding up of things. This will also influence your interpretation. So you have a calm exordium, you have a lively middle part, which was called in Sweelinck's day the medium. So it mediates between everything, and it's a kind of development section. Of course, it's not development in the classical sense, so it's pretty wrong actually, but it gives you a sense of the direction which your interpretation should go to. And here she should work hard on making those counter motives lively and contrasting. For example, there is a very lively counter theme, and the next counter theme is very suave. So that needs a lot of attention, and these are, the one phrase has short articulation, and this one has a broad articulation goes over 2 bars. That's what you still need to work on a bit. In the final section, then you get these diminution, and it's a remarkable point because it's not only diminution, but you get also ostinato technique. Bach, or I must say Sweelinck. Bach was the composer which was before. So it is Sweelinck. He wrote several ostinato fantasias, which has a theme always repeated in a certain voice. So that's a special technique, and here he applies it into this fantasia. So that's a very important moment. What I miss a little bit in your interpretation, of especially this last section, where the fantasia finally goes into virtuoso display and excitement. It needs to go more forwards. For example, when you have the 16th notes and the 16th sextuplets as the climax of the movement, then you get suddenly these quarter notes again, and they were a bit too slow. They should be exactly in time and go on. Now I was longing for the end too much. It was halting the movement, and it was also true with these 8 notes. You were remarkably good in holding the tempo very stable from the beginning. I liked your beginning tempo, but you should draw out this idea of a constant tempo to the end, and that makes the movement such a strong statement of architecture and of proportion. I talked about it a little bit yesterday, because this idea of putting the theme in 4 different proportions is so central to this piece. It's an element which cannot be played around with. So these proportions are holy. They should be played as written, so to speak. And which means that this section, where you have the 16 notes and then the sextuplets, should be more exciting, more brilliant. Can you try that? Let's start from there. We begin in bar 149. This is much fun, actually, this line in the left hand. And there are syncopations, it's very unpredictable. Actually, I would like to have one stop more here. It's a bit weak now in the bass. So be a bit more playful. Can you hold the microphone for a second?
Sure.
And I will. Here we have. So don't play too regular. Don't play. Just play. So emphasize these 8 notes. And the syncopation. And where there is a halt, you take more time. For example, in the syncopations in bar 153. Then there is a long stretch of continuous 16 notes which you just play on, quasi breathless. Then you have a sudden stop here on this G before you have a big playful jump to the lone F jump. It needs more direction and playfulness. It's very important. Should also be aware of the theme, huh? That it's, and then articulate strongly between one theme and the other. bit more stable tempo, but for the rest it's much more exciting now. It has more direction. This music is highly serious, of course. It's chromatic, and this piece has such enormous power and drama in itself. At the same time, it's also humorous in a sense. In many details, it's lively. It pulsates with life, and that you have to bring out more, that aspect. It's a really very all-encompassing piece. It incorporates so many elements of everything what is possible in music, and that you should bring out more. I liked your general approach to interpretation very much. Now it's a question about the details. Let's look at the proportion of this final section where the piece goes into the quarter notes diminution and then finally these 8 note diminutions. Let's start from the sextuplets in bar 167. Sometimes that you should be very careful, of course, with repeated notes on the organ, especially when they are thematic. And never play those chromatic notes legato. Of course, in the old school that was actually the rule. As soon as you saw chromatic lines, you played it legato, but here it is not working actually. There's always some gap in between. And that gives the sound its quality. It's a very important thing. So this also holds here. Can you play the 8 note version of the theme in 8 notes? Let's say from here. Not so much articulation. Of course not. That is, then you get Mozart instead of Sweelinck if you slur it, but kind of détaché quality where you have a kind of where it really sounds as a very sorrowful phrase. Now it's too jolly. Too deliberate, but play. Yes, you could even consider, on the organ at least, stretching this first chromatic note. I think that will give a nice, piquant quality to the harmony. Let's start from there. Okay, you like it? As you see, in this way you find a solution, partly also because it sounds less colorful, of course, on a non-mean tone organ, this passage. On mean tone organ you don't have to do so much, actually, because it will sound fabulous, especially this G sharp. So here you have to add some other means to make the music worthwhile. Let's go towards the end and see if we can wrap this up convincingly. From the spot here, that's bar 185. Which we have in bar 188, 89 is very important, because here is what is called the finalis of the piece. What happens afterwards is only a plagal continuation on the 4th degree and the 1st degrees. So the ending should be very emphatic. And then there is this what's called a supplementum, something extra is added. So think about it as, oh, even more. We had this wailing here before, and then it starts even on a higher pitch, and it repeats itself. So let's play this again from this spot. Here, this is a very exciting moment. We have this. That can hold longer. So what is happening here? And then you get this. So you have this very exciting chord, and then this very rhapsodic ending. It's like an improvisation on the final chord, so it should sound much more freely. Figures are like written out trills. So they are rather brilliant. And this is so, these 16th notes are rather free and expressive. And then you go ahead and jump into the final chord. A little bit retard here perhaps, but there are two elements here and they are not related really. Start from bar 193. And you can even do like this. Set it clear apart from each other. Throughout, beginning with the 4th finger. That's the easiest. Articulation against this rather heavy left-hand chord. That will make it stand out more. Yes, and of course there are two. There's another element in the next bar. And then. Only then you start the scale upwards. much.